Уважаемые коллеги, здравствуйте. Давайте начинать. Вторая сессия транспортная.
Dear colleagues, let us start our second session on the transport connectivity in Central Asia and approaches of the multilateral development banks. My name is Sergei Ignatov, and I'm the chief head of the Center for Integrative Studies. Also, we have Asaf Baev, who is the General Secretary on the Secretariat of Trasseca, and Vadim Zakharenko, who is the head of representative of IRU in Eurasia. And also we have Mr. Runzayu, who is the Senior Investment Officer in the Public Sector Clients Department, and he's responsible for EMEA and Americas. Also, Mr. Roman Mogilevsky, who is the Senior Economist in Asian Development Bank, and Mr. Timur Beguliyev, who is the Deputy Chairperson of the Management Board in Kazakhstan Investment Corporation. The transport connectivity is the chief aspect of the economic development, and the gap all over the world for the period till 2030 is 18.5 trillion US dollars, and half of that is for developing countries. And the most vulnerable position is in the countries that are landlocked, and the cost of export and import is 20% more. That's why development of the transport and soft infrastructure is highly important task for Central Asia. All that should be solved in between of governments, organizations, and multilateral development banks. Governments are aware about the demand, and they develop appropriate plans and scenarios. International organizations may see better those challenges, and they develop transport and soft infrastructure projects. The multilateral international development banks may finance highly cumulative projects for the region. One of the priorities of our bank, Eurasian Development Bank, while choosing a project to finance, it's a matter of the impact into the integration in the region. Today we will speak about transport and soft infrastructure, and I kindly ask the speakers to keep up with timing, 10 minutes per presentation and 2 minutes for Q&A session. Let me present the first main speaker of today's session, Alexander Zaboev, who is the head of Center for Integration Studies in Eurasian Development Bank. He is an engineer on transport. He's having 25 years experience, and he's the author of ECA UN report on transportation connectivity published this year. And this year, Eurasian Development Bank prepared a report on transportation car case with his participation. And it's a matter of transport connectivity with Central Asia. And you can read the main provisions in the hard version in the booth of Eurasian Development Bank. Also, you can download the maps and the schemes on the website of the bank using the QR code. Now I pass the floor to Alexander for his presentation. Also, you can ask the questions, and you can ask other speakers after all the presentations. Thank you, dear moderator. Central Asia is in the focus of attention of the world community for transport and economic connectivity of the regions. None of the regions in the world has so many publications and agenda issues for multilateral development banks. From the point of view of transport development, harmonization of border crossing, what agenda is telling us? There is a successful development, and from the other side also we may see the paradox of Socrates. Wider the circle, wider the circle of unknown. And when we develop interconnectivity in Central Asia, we better understand the future tasks to solve. The big number of multilateral programs are already adopted and implemented, and we still hope that the tasks stipulated for many programs, in case they are implemented, they will promote the transport connectivity in this region. We should mention that the region is connected to the transport policy. And of course, the issues of transport connectivity should find the reflection in global negotiation process and agenda. First of all, there is a 10 years jubilee starting from the previous year. It is still going on, and there will be several events to implement this program of UN. And one more important component mentioned by Sergei, this is a program for landlocked countries. The third international conference on landlocked countries was planned in Gaborone this year, but was postponed for 2025. And it gives us an opportunity to jump into the last rail car, take into consideration that the latest provision for countries is a possibility to cooperate multilaterally with governmental, non-governmental organizations to promote transport connectivity. The bank issued this year a report that is called Transport Carcass to implement a network model. Not separate corridors, doesn't matter from where to where, but we speak about development of multifaceted, complete network. What we see in the region, it has been already implemented within the frames of Traseka. Traseka is a network of routes. Within the frames of Tsarist program by Eurasian Development Bank, it is done the same. Does not depend on classifications and networks. Corridors are replicating each other, and some corridors and routes are a part of other corridors, and it's good because the synergy of corridors are giving cumulative effect, means up to 40% of additional container traffic, and also it facilitates container transportations and facilitation of procedures, and it helps to implement different measures to monitor and manage transport corridors. As it was mentioned before, 5 countries of the region are landlocked, and Uzbekistan is twice landlocked because surrounded by the countries that are also landlocked. In that regard, it's important to decrease transport costs. And the trade taking place in this region, both for exporters and importers, is that people are paying for imported goods, and there are high transport costs included into the general costs. related to the insufficiently developed infrastructure and partially develops on the impediments in the soft infrastructure on the borders. So it's another task for multilateral cooperation in order to simplify, digitalize, and coordinate the activity. We should mention that according to our assessment, this work to join the corridors and to improve the connectivity, it would give high cumulative impact, and the implementation of soft infrastructural projects would enable to decrease the multimodal costs and to simplify transportation along all the route. One of the examples, if we implement digital procedures from China to Europe, we get up to 4 days time saving totally while getting through the boundaries on transboundary procedures. In that regards, I don't want to speak about separate transport corridors. And in 2024, the transport flow is growing, but we see big growth in middle corridor, so-called Trans-Caspian route. According to different assessments, during 10 months of the current year, the number of container freight, it has increased 10 times, and 10.5 times China-Europe route increased its flow. There are big efforts implemented from the global community to develop this particular corridor. At the same time, Trans-Caspian international route is joining other routes, and infrastructure development should be done from different locations. There are large-scale projects implemented to build new railways, to build different junction lines and seaport junction roads. But despite the stage of now, particularly Aigos-Bakhti railway line, CPP between China, it's in the process of implementation. But there is a question, do we still need the third CPP? I think, yes, we need to have even the fourth in order to transit cargoes between Central Asia and China without any impediments. Let me mention some other projects. There is a big start to establish a new railway line, Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan. This is a big public-private partnership to build, to operate, and there will be a change of the gauge in Makmal station. The size of the gauge will be changed, and it is widely supported by China, and the majority of money used is from China side, like in many other similar projects, like in Laos, China Railway, that was launched several years ago, and we will see quick results from this project as well. Also, a bank in its study, you can get the results in English and Russian from our booth. We show different links that would add to the traditional links from west to east with other links. And there are other important projects moving towards Indian Ocean, towards south, because there is a high demand to link India, Pakistan, and Gulf countries. According to the data from International Trade Center, UNCTAD and UNCTAD, the non-implemented trade potential is 3 times higher than now. So if infrastructure would enable to travel cargoes to India and China, the scope of traffic would be 3 times higher. Where we can implement our cooperation. There are many different projects that may attract attention of international organizations and private business, such as bankable projects that will help to attract funds from private investors and international development banks. They are highly needed for the region. And also auxiliary infrastructure development projects that are of particular interest for external investors. They are quick to implement and can generate cash flow during operation. Also, CPPs. Turkey has great experience letting PPPs to participate in the cross-border CPP projects, and they increased the capacity of CPP 10 times. And one more aspect to highlight. This is about the railway park renovation. In Central Asia, for instance, the fleet of boats is outdated, and if we would renovate it, it would improve the traffic. Also, the automobile transport is to be renewed because Central Asia transporters travel to Europe, and for that they need high-class vehicles. Regarding soft infrastructure, there are 3 main elements: harmonization, coordination, and digitalization. We are sure that harmonization should be based on international standards and UN conventions and multilateral agreements. There is a discussion in UN regarding multilateral regional agreements to accept operators. Next is coordination. This is exactly what we discuss here today. As I mentioned, coordination mechanisms are established and they could be very different. We call it a Central Eurasian corridor. In the scientific literature, it's called Northern Corridor. This is China, Kazakhstan, Belarus, Europe, that is operated by logistics operator who showed high efficiency in growing traffic. Same work is done in Trans-Caspian route. In Traseka, this mechanism was established from beginning because there is a national coordinator available in each country, and it enables to establish dialogue with local government. Next is digitalization. This is a word that we actively use, but there are different types of digitalization. When we speak about the electronic transport and shipping documents, if we scan and send, also it's a matter of digitalization, submitting documents in electronic form. But looking into the future, we should speak about digital tools, such as digital approval, digital bill of lading, and also digital declaration, customs declaration, blockchain, artificial intelligence, and then all the transport documents will be provided in the register, and then it would be possible to use for all stakeholders in order to have seamless transit process for transboundary procedures, not to waste time on the borders, and for the region to get the maximum effect, to develop external trade and transit procedures. It should be mentioned that trade and international transportation, this is a basis for success in the region and for development as well. And we hope that peace and development will take place in Central Asia.
Thank you, Alexander. You spoke about corridors and routes. Maybe you can pick up one specific project as an example of international cooperation, which is, to your opinion, mostly interesting in Central Asia. Thank you for your question. To begin with, I would like to praise myself. The Eurasian Development Bank, together with the EBRD and IDB, implemented a belt road around Almaty. This road is also a link of the main transport corridors crossing Almaty. It is one of the brightest examples when international cooperation helped us to materialize this project really quick. And there are a number of other examples like Europe, West China, and Kazakhstan. It was implemented together with a number of other banks, and we see that the road is very efficient, and Kazakhstan, if not the first one among other partners, has accomplished this motorway. Thank you. Our next speaker is Secretary General Permanent Secretariat of the Intergovernmental Commission, Trasika, Mr. Aset Savbayev. He was involved in various issues associated with transport policy development in Kazakhstan in 2013. He was chair of Transport Committee at Ministry of Transport and Communication. He was also a chair of Committee on Transport and Investments. He was also a head of a national operator, Kazavtozhol. He was also a president of Road Union of Kazakh operators. He's also with, since 2022, Secretary General of Trasika. Trasika involved in boosting connectivity in Central Asia and South Caucasus, and in every country there are national secretariats of Trasika, and that is why this corridor is well coordinated. The floor is yours. Thank you, Mr. Ignatov, for giving me the floor. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome on behalf of the Permanent Secretariat of the Intergovernmental Commission of Trasika. I would like, first of all, thanks the organizers for having me here, but also I would like to say the things which are in the EDB pipeline, and this is great, and I believe that just look through Mr. Zaboyev's review and report, and I believe it has a number of very interesting findings and recommendations. We need to work in accordance with such a bright example of work. We observing dynamic development of transport sectors in every region with a specific focus on in-depth transboundary cooperation, which are also members of Trasika. As you know, in November last year, Turkmenistan became 14th Trasika member state, and for the present time, this country is a fully fledged member. As you know, this corridor encompassed 5 Central Asian states, Caucasian countries, and Black Sea countries. As it was mentioned before, every country has their respective national general secretaries, which contributes to smooth operation of Trasika, and I believe it is an excellent example for other projects in the region. One important challenge, some challenges have been voiced already, but I believe one of the main challenge for us is to improve our infrastructure. we see that Central Asian states are actively involved in cooperation with multiple multilateral banks where we are focusing on financing, basically. Our monitoring also proves there are some congestions in border crossing points, which is not good, of course, and specifically there are bottlenecks in terms of throughput capacity of various links. That is why we need to improve transport infrastructure, in particular border crossing points, not only bilaterally, but also see from the corridor perspectives in terms of whether other routes are matched with the required throughput capacity. That is why we need multilateral platform for smooth corridors operation. In particular, I want to speak about seaports infrastructure of Caspian states, which were built originally based on those fleet which used Volga-Donsk canal. And for the present time, this limits significantly their payload, and as a result, we consider some costs because these ships are not capacious enough. Now we develop a new fleet with a higher payload, and we need now to be focused on the second stage, considering waterworks in ports, and in particular opportunity to deal with a bigger vessel fleet. And I hope that this platform will be a good start for possible project. Secondly, it's a soft infrastructure issue. We have a number of projects and initiatives. Briefly, I could say about them. For instance, that is interconnectivity in Caspian Sea, and in particular interconnectivity between the seaports. We prepared a special plan accordingly. Before, Mr. Zaboev spoke about the fact that all eyes of development partners are on the connection between Asia and Europe. And we have a number of projects ongoing, like Trans-Caspian route, Caspian Sea, Black Sea, Almaty, Tehran, Istanbul corridor, and Trans-Caspian route headed by the UN. Considering the fact that most of these initiatives backed by European and Asian countries, we need to establish some common platform in order to avoid duplications in countries and between the international organizations. After all, they're boosting connectivity. And here we need to also think about integrating multimodal transport system for seamless connections and improving connectivity because of these projects. That is why, based on Trasica digital concept, we have digital data exchange project on paperless exchange of all supporting documents together with International Road Union, Railroad Union, and United Nations. We are building up between connection between Turkey, Ukraine, and Central Asia, and we also integrated Azeri, Georgian data exchange, and currently we're working on paperless data exchange between Georgia and Turkey, and we would like to scale up this experience through the whole corridor, and we call up all international partners and development banks to promote this project. These solutions were designed 5-7 years ago, but no one started to implement them based on our corridor. We approach to implement this important project. I understand that solid infrastructure is important, but soft infrastructure is equally important. So that is why we need to be focused on this so-called soft infrastructure as well. And this is an excellent example of CNS SMGS bills when we're changing the wheel pairs. And we also have a pilot project with articulated trailers, and this is a good opportunity for get rid of many paperworks. That is why we believe once we are focusing on connectivity, and then we could finally approach with greater impact to these issues. In Trasica, we financed as grants and infrastructure. We have more than 185 million euro on 85 projects, which included load and unload operations, building up terminals, rolling stock investments, and in various countries we help with these specific projects, and because of this, countries started to develop these projects. We improve throughput capacity of our corridors. Through Trans-Caspian corridor, we had more than 300 blockchains trains, then next year 1,000, etc. We will see a 2-3-fold increase of transported cargo. Our joint infrastructure development and introduction of new technologies will make more sustainable connectivity in the region, and together we can establish better transport network for the sake of long-term cooperation in the region. We are ready to work on behalf of Trasica's Secretary General, and I'm pretty sure that this conference will be a great contribution to connectivity in the region. Thank you. You spoke about cooperation. From your perspective, do we need to improve Trasica and International Development Bank cooperation? Yes, it is very important. Here we need to find various approaches. And when Trasica spoke about different opportunities in terms of cooperating with MDBs, I believe that we need to apply various requirements which we have internally. But under the circumstances, the permanent secretariat cannot substitute the countries themselves. That is why, together with other countries, we established a separate Trasica fund, and in the nearest several months we accomplished all paperwork, and soon we'll start to invite various organizations and countries to participate in this fund. As a result, we'll have a better coordination. Thank you very much. Very interesting information indeed. Next speaker is Mr. Vadim Zakharenko, who is General Delegate to Eurasia on behalf of International Road Transport Union. He has more than 20 years experience in the area of international motor transport, logistics and customs procedures. Mr. Zakharenko was an active participant on various plans of international road transportation in Uzbekistan, and just 1 week ago he was a participant of International Sustainable Development Conference in Ashgabat. I consider would be a very interesting presentation. Thank you, Sergey, for your kind introduction. I will make my presentation in English.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm pleased to address to you at this important and timely conference on enhanced transport connectivity and particularly road transport as the foundation for an economic activity leading to sustainable. Sustainable development is not possible without road transport. We cannot achieve sustainability goals where economic development is the first pillar without connecting nations and economies with strong and resilient corridors based on efficient transport, which requires proper transport infrastructure. Through our members around the globe, IRU represents more than 3.5 million transport companies operating mobility and logistics services. IRU has come a long way in 75 years, from helping to reignite Europe's trade links in the late 1940s to today's work on global issues ranging from road safety and digitalization to driver shortages and decarbonization. Working closely with our